What do you think about the peace talk going on today?
Peace talks do not seem to be going anywhere because the minimum that the Palestinians will accept, which is a state within 67 boundaries, is different from the concessions that the Israelis are willing to make. And the Israelis have in mind a Bantustanized state or a mini-state which would exist in segmented communities and no access to Jerusalem and no right of return for the refugees and no sovereign control over boundaries, because the area separating Jordan from the future Palestinian state, Jordan Valley, is being claimed as a security barrier for Israel. So unless these issues are dealt with in an effective manner, and the Americans are not exercising their volition to make the Israelis concede these points, it doesn't seem that there will be an agreement. And if there will be an agreement under these extreme dictations, it will be a disaster for the Palestinians. Well, a territorial solution will not work under these conditions. The question is, can there be another round of seeking a territorial solution with the settlements expanding at this rate and the segmentation going on? Many people believe that this might be the last straw, and that when it happens, Israel will go the South African way, meaning that Palestinians will seek citizenship in a greater combined country, and Israel will keep a segmentary control of an apartheid system until a new balance of forces happen. This is a very vague situation, but in the short run, it doesn't look good for the Palestinians. In the long run, the demographic issue is not being resolved in Israel's favor and will eventually compel them either to seek a new form of separation or a South African solution. When will this happen? It's very hard to imagine.
The right to return of the Palestinian refugees has become more and more marginal in the peace talk. Why?
Well, the right of return is now seen by Israel as a demographic strategy of undermining the Jewish state. The right of return, which is being proposed, is to the Palestinian territories, not to the state of Israel. But since the Palestinian territories that are being proposed is not the 67 boundaries, that itself is questionable. So the refugee issue is actually has been pushed into the back burner by the current negotiations.
How the wall is changing the landscape, the geography of the places?
The wall is changing it in a drastic way, both physically and psychologically. Physically, because it separated communities from each other and destroyed the large tracts of land, some of which was agriculture, some was urban, one thing you have to remember about the wall is not separate the Israelis from the Palestinians. It separates many Palestinians from their own land on the other side. So within the greater Jerusalem area, the intent of the wall is to create a potential future boundaries between Israel and the Palestinian territories, even though the wall itself is carved inside the city of Jerusalem. So it's a kind of a litmus test, testing the ground for how people would react. But the wall also is a horrendous way of creating segregationist policies in terms of housing laws, building permits, and so on. I gave you a very categorical answer to this, but you can go and see the impact of the wall in various communities in situ, where where people are cut off from their schools, from their workplace, where they have to spend hours waiting to cross to the other side. In general, the intent of the law is to treat Jerusalemites who are on this side of the wall to become attuned as residents in the West Bank, and therefore to lose their permanent right to the city of Jerusalem. And they already have started a process whereby people who do not live inside the city on this side of the wall to lose their identity cards that give them permanent rights to the city.